Alrighty, we are live. Hello, everybody who has joined us. We will give probably a few minutes for people to join in, those who are just pressing the buttons now. And in 30 seconds, I will start with a general intro of why we have gathered here today.
Lovely. Do we have background music? Yes.
We're 2 minutes in. I welcome everybody who has joined us today. I hope you took a comfortable seat, took out your pens and papers in case you want to do notes. And I would like to start this webinar for founders by Dilum and joined by Alexandra Balkova. A little bit about Dilum, if you have joined and you don't know who we are. Dilum is an investment management platform. We created a software for early stage investors to manage their portfolios and communications with startups. And for startups, it's a source of all truth, as I like to call it. You create your application, you submit this application to different investors, you try to fundraise, but that means that all of your communications and data management is centered on Dilum, one platform. It's not across 75 different emails and 5 platforms. This is Dilum in the nutshell, and you have joined a webinar for founders. Hopefully you're a founder, but I'm sure this is insightful for every single startup ecosystem player. We have created those webinars to provide support and insight for founders. And today's topic is fundraising in a turbulent economy. You probably have heard that it's not very easy to fundraise at the moment. You maybe have seen a lot of charts or read some overviews why, but we have invited Alexandra Balkova to share her insight into what is going on, why it's happening, and what you as a founder can do about it. Alexandra has been a part of the dark side, aka investor, for the past 10 years, and she has been advising and working closely with startups for the past at least 7. She has been working with startups to help them with every aspect of their fundraising and also how to set strategic goals for their businesses and to how to build sustainable companies with good leadership. And without further ado, I will give a word to Alexandra. She can probably present herself a little bit better than I can. And hello, thank you for joining and welcome.
I will not present myself better because you presented me with all the needed points, so nothing to improve there. But I will share my screen, and definitely good to be here. And thank you so much for inviting. And let's see what you can see. And you should see the first slide. Yes.
I do see. We do see. You can continue.
Lovely. So we do have this turbulent economy right now, right? But I think the most important thing is to be, I guess in general, my life philosophy is to be aware of what is happening in general, but to find a way out of it and to even to try to find, if not the benefits, but just the tips and tricks how to work around. And now we're in the, well, almost the end of June, and one of the things that I wanted talk about today is, besides the market economy, is also on what to do in summer, because you know that summer is the vacation time and the vacation period. And I don't know how much you as listeners have experience in fundraising, but I would like to tap a little bit on the practical steps on what to do in the coming 2 months, pretty much, to get the most use out of it. And yes, main thing of why I'm here, why I'm happy for Dylan to have invited me here, is that I guess the main thing that you need to know is that, yeah, I've been a decade in the venture capital. It's a long time, and before that I had a different life, a different career. In the beginning of my venture capital career, was working with founders that were launching their own funds, so kind of operating as business angels, and I was helping them as uh, all-in-one platform of doing everything. That's how I learned from scratch, pretty much from zero, and went my way from knowing nothing about the startup investment ecosystem to becoming an investor. Um, with the startup Wise Guys, I'm a partner, and I'm with us for more than well, basically more than half of my VC career. So it's more than 6 years, 6.5 years, and it's more than half of the lifetime of Startup Wise Guys existence. And for that, you probably have heard about us if you're coming from at least this region, and maybe from some other countries as well. We are investing in pre-seed stage startups. We're investing in a lot of startups per year. So we're an early stage, very active early stage investor. And besides that, two more things that I'm proud of is right now I'm developing the next level of the knowledge with the Newton Venture Program, where I'm a fellow, and it's an educational program, which means that I'm kind of trying to learn all the time, despite it being decade in the VC. And with that also came like, okay, for the next 10 years, I'm also increasing and improving and starting establishing my own practice developed for designed for business angels that want to learn how to invest in startups, and kind of how to make the right steps, but also for the coaching for founders, because I've been working with founders in the past this 7, 10, pretty much up to 10 years, so almost from day one, helping them to form the proper relationship with investors and find their way through. But that's, you can also probably read a little bit more about why I'm here, but it doesn't matter that much. But what does matter is what do we do with the market and with the economy today, and what we do as you as founders and we as investors. How do we survive this market? In the end of the presentation, I know that we should have some time for the Q&A, and besides that, so please prepare the questions or ask the questions, write them down, and we'll try to touch them upon in the end. So yeah. We all know that we are back to the climate for startups, to the ecosystem, what we have now, to the market, and I'm pretty sure that it's been happening for a long time. That's why you know things, but I will still point things out. One of the reasons for this, for a few slides that I will show in the very beginning, is my idea is to show you what to read, how to read between the lines of what is happening with the reports and what is happening with the ecosystem. So the first thing, this is a screenshot from SEB Insights from the global trends. So what you need to know here is you probably can see that starting from the Q1 of 2022, so it's been 2 full years when the market has been dropping. The number of deals per quarter has been dropping every single quarter. And the volume of the deals, the investment volume, the funding globally, so this is the global trends, has been also dropping quite a lot, with some changes in 2023. And right now in Q1 2024, we can see that the funding volume has grew a little bit from compared to Q4. However, the number of deals still kept dropping down compared to Q4, which means that there was a larger number of volume per deal, right? But the lower volume of deals. So the competition for startups to getting the money, the money and the investments from investors is still there. But then I'm showing that only one slide, and the idea is to tackle what is the why behind that, and how do you see why this is happening as well. So for you to understand and get kind of the whole cycle and the process of what is happening with the ecosystem. And one of the things that I want to stop and emphasize is that VCs, funds, investors are fundraising too, right? So it's not only startups are fundraising from the investors, but investors as venture capital funds are also fundraising from limited partners. There's the cycle. Well, business angels are not fundraising from anyone because they're operating within their own funds. However, if we're talking about the ecosystem player, which is a venture capital fund, then they're involved in the fundraising process as well. And why this is important for you, because when you're learning about the market trends and you're curious about what's happening in the market, besides looking at the data for startups that is built for startups, I would actually offer you to look also through the reports about the data, what is happening with VCs. So the reports built for investors to explain what's happening with them. And by the way, what I didn't mention is that this data is coming from Q1. I was checking yesterday, maybe unless I didn't see anything, I think there's still not no Q2 data, which is coming quite soon. So like, take a look, keep an eye on Crunchbase, on PitchBook data in the coming couple of months to see, basically in June, July, to see the new fresh updated data. So right now it's based on Q1. So yeah, and what is happening with VC activity is that, well, it is also quite horribly dropping. Couple of things here which is interesting on this slide, what you need to note for yourself for this future presentation as well. So the number of funds, if you see fund count, this orange line in 2021 has been the highest, which means that the number of funds, VC funds that were launched in 2021 during the anomaly times of the market, when everything was extremely booming and then collapsed later, was a lot. So there was a lot of funds that raised capital and launched new funds 3 years ago, right? And then by 2024, again, this data 2024 is obviously just for the first quarter, right? So it's not yet the full year, of course, but still even for the Q1 data, it was quite small. Another thing, what is important to know from the reports launched, this one particularly from PitchBook, is that in this year as well as in 2023, we already saw, and 22, of course, we already saw quite a lot of challenges for the first time fund managers. So, which means that what is the first time, right? So, which means that this fund has not been run before. They've been launched maybe first time in 2021, or maybe they were about to launch, or they started fundraising as a fund. They created their first fund in 22, 23, and these first time fund managers and first time funds, according to statistics, had quite a lot of challenges as well compared to experienced players. And this is also important as a mental note. And then the last part from the data built for investors about what's happening on the venture capital market is that's very important thing about the exits, the IPOs, the public listing, the buyouts, acquisitions. So anything that is providing liquidity for investors, and for founders, of course, obviously. So the thing is that with all the anomaly in the market in 2021, what through the whole year, and then starting from 22 is the same as you saw the drop of the funding available for startups on the very first slide. So we see that 22, 23 was quite horrible. So there is not enough public listings, there was not enough acquisitions, there was not enough exits happening on the market these 2 years, which means that there's not enough money returned to investors that invested in startups previously. What this means is what I want for you to understand as a founder, because you have to obviously focus on the information that is relevant for founders, what's happening for the on the market for startups. However, I believe it is extremely important to understand the whole cycle and to understand what is happening and why. So why this is a challenging time for startups to fundraise, because for the investors it is also a challenging time to fundraise because there is not enough liquidity on the market. So liquidity is one of the main things that is not the only one, but one of the main things that is boosting the rolling investments, right? So the limited partners that are investing in funds are lacking little liquidity in the past 2 years, which means that they kind of work around their existing portfolios. They are reallocating capital between the existing portfolios to support the existing funds where they invested in. And they're spending way more time on the due diligence for the new fund managers, because they have to ensure that where they're investing, the new funds that they're choosing to invest in will bring them the returns as well. And then the second part, the second kind of conclusion out of here is that we are in the investor-friendly market, and investors have, which means that while investors have limited funds, meaning that they've been struggling to fundraise for the past 2 years after the boost in 2021. VCs also reallocate capital for the existing portfolios and spend more time on due diligence on new startups. And if you can see the whole processes of VCs making the decisions where to invest in startups and the LPs making the decisions how to invest in VCs are actually very, very similar. Of course, there's a lot of different details because they're all different players, type of players in this market. However, the thinking process is the design of the process and the whys is quite similar. So why it is important to understand is that one of the main conclusions out of here, what I want you to remember is that the time spent on fundraising as of today has been stretched and increased quite dramatically, because all of the ecosystem players are spending more time to find the best deals, to make the proper due diligence, and before making the decision on where to allocate the money. Which leads me to the thought, to the process, to the next step on, okay, if we know that we have a lot of time right now on that is needed for fundraising, what startups should do, right? So what do we do as of today to get the funding for the startup? When I'm running this workshop or similar workshop with physical people, I'm actually usually asking the audience to think through the options how you can fund your startup. Today I will provide you all the options, but before I go to the next slide, we'll actually want you to now to focus and to think for a couple of seconds that, hey, what are the options for me? So besides venture capital money, how can I ensure that I can pay salaries? How can I ensure that I can, as a founder, increase the runway of the startup? So what can I do to prolong the life of the company? And with that, I want to remind you that there's a lot of options besides venture capital. I will start actually from the right bottom, from the down right column, and from the VCs, and we'll go up and then go to the left column. So we see that there's VCs as funds, venture capital funds as one of the main options that founders usually go to. Then there are business angels. Then there's also corporate venture capital. And I will stop here for a second, that every single player here, every single option here so there's no perfection in life, right? So every single thing will have the upsides and the downsides, which you as founders have to evaluate which one would work for your business and for your team the best. So corporate venture capital is one of the options, not always, but there is so right now there's a lot of separate arms of corporate venture capital that are separated from their corporate itself, and they're acting just as VCs, so within the VC venture funds rules. However, there's also sometimes the connection between the corporate venture arm in many times and the main corporate, which might be considered as this type of the investor as a strategic investor, right? Which could be again good and bad for a startup. In many cases, it's a good thing as well, but sometimes it might be challenging with, let's say, competitive clauses in the agreements. That's a separate story. Then we going up. There's also a raising number of active family offices that are investing directly in startups. They became a super active part of the ecosystem in the past couple of years. I think exactly within the years when VCs, when the funding climate was getting the correction in the past couple of years. So family offices became a super valuable player. They were always on the market, but in the past recent years, they raised quite a lot in the number of activities that they're doing. Then there's a cool thing that is called revenue-based financing. So there are services, the companies that are providing funding, equity-free funding, obviously, for the startups that have some revenue. So the ones that we were working with, I remember where the requirements were not too high. So actually, they were required startups to have maybe like 10,000 or even 7,000 monthly recurring revenue. So not crazy numbers. So just quite early stage. Then there are options for crowdfunding. Then I'm moving left. There are grants. There are competitions and events where you can pitch and win the prize from winning the pitch competition. Then there's always friends, family, and fools, and then there's also barter. Quite interesting thing that people sometimes forget. When you really cannot pay for any services, you can always negotiate with your network on what kind of service you can provide and what kind of service you can get for that. If you really cannot offer the money quantity for the service, then there's always bootstrapping. And then we're getting back to customers. The customers is well, I should have started from that, but I wanted to emphasize the customers as the main source for startup funding forever. It's been always like that, and it remains always like that. And especially in the market times when the VCs are investing more carefully, when they're making longer due diligence, when they're making more than when the process is prolonged. That's why many people, and like most of the people, if not all of the ecosystem, is saying that while it is a painful process of the correction, but it's a healthy correction. So we're getting back to proper basics of startups being more careful with the money and being more focused on the traction. So customers is the first answer on how you can fund your startup. And then moving from the timeless options for fundraising, we're moving into what do you do in summer actually, and how do you what to do today, knowing that there are vacations coming. And before that, I want to emphasize a couple of things. So even though there are vacations period coming, which is typically July and August, or let's say August, depends on the country, depends on the region. However, the main thing is that if you have to fundraise, the best day to start your fundraising was yesterday or last month or maybe the months before, but the second best day is still today. It's despite everything, despite the kind of the summertime coming or not the summertime coming. There's definitely things that you can do every month in the year. Well, having said that, there are actually patterns in the industry globally. Depends on the country. Public holidays, but there's still some patterns that are similar to at least Europe and to across Europe for sure. So typically we would start with January and June, from January to June, or to mid-April to mid-May, let's say, when there's the most when it's the most active time to start fundraising, to build relations with investors, and to ensure that you have the right processes in place. So you start communicating with investors. Then typically from mid-June to July, the processes start slowing down. And then July and August are defined in, not everywhere, which is very important, but in many countries, both these months, especially August, of course, these are the months of vacations, and which means that the prolonged processes to fundraise are becoming even longer, right? So people, you just simply cannot get the answer fast on your emails, or the decision is not even possible to do, because decisions are made during the investment committee, and if one of the key investment committee members is out in the on the vacation, just that investment committee will not assess your startup, right? So it will be postponed. Then we have also quite cool time from September to November, when again we have the activated ecosystem, when there's a lot of things happening, and then people starts to kind of slow down and finish up the deals that they were talking through and making through and discussing over the year, to finish by Christmas time, because the Christmas time, early December is already, so Christmas time, of course, is the time off up to the first week of January. But before Christmas time, the only things that VCs are doing is probably to finishing up and just arranging everything that was done before, but not starting anything new, very rarely. Having said that, there's this perception, I think, that I could have created, that, oh, there's like 4 months or 2 months or something in the year that VCs are not working, which is not correct. In the same way as founders, investors are not really are off, fully off, probably almost never, because they're always working for their with their startup portfolio companies. So they're always helping. They're always are winning the call, or so they're always helping solve issues which exist. But during their time off, the main thing for them, if they're on the vacation, would be still probably to focus on the existing portfolio, if needed, if their attention is needed, versus the new startup founder that they're evaluating. I wanted to say something else, but I forgot, so I might remember, and we'll come back to that thought. But the main point here, yes, I remembered. So the main point is that one of the things that we see quite a lot. So our portfolio, it started by Guys, our portfolio. I've been working with founders from different countries, super many times, from many different markets, and there's one pattern that is always there for many founders, despite how many times it is written or said that you have to plan your fundraising in advance. So the typical story would be, oh, now it's like March, and we have the runway until end of summer, so we want to fundraise through March, maybe close the deal in March, let's spring, close the deal in June or something like that, or maybe in July, and then we're safe. But with that, why I'm emphasizing quite a lot on this summertime as well, and just knowing the seasonality, is that, and coming back to where we started from with the slides, is that first, there's not 12 months in a year to fundraise, so there's kind of less. There's at least maybe 9 months in a year to fundraise, maybe 10 months to fundraise. The second thing is that if you have the runway end of summer, you have to understand that July, August might be very difficult to close the deal, unless you're working with, let's say, business angels that, or one or two business angels. So there's no need for like investment committee happening, and then you probably can have a few tickets coming in from just personal investments. So when you start fundraising, you have to ensure that you have minimum 6 months of runway, or better 9 months of runway, so that you as a founder have space to think. You're not in pressure, or not in that much pressure of running out of money. It's not happening tomorrow, so that you can actually negotiate from the position of the power, and you can choose between the funds, and you can spend time on building the relationships with funds, and you can choose the ones that you really really like to work with, because of course, you know that it's a long-term partnership, and you definitely don't want to take the money from someone that you don't like, because this will save your company. And going back from there back to the summertime, so what do we do as of today, being in June 2024, and what can you do today to ensure that your fundraising processes are smooth? And the first thing that I want to emphasize is that building the proper pipeline takes a lot of time. And right now, with the seasonality, with the lower activity of the market, you have that time, and you can spend that time on the proper research and the proper preparations of everything that the investors would require from you. And you can start from researching the proper research and creating the proper list of 100 to 400 relevant investors. That's an important word here, relevant investors. So not all investors out there in the globe, but relevant for your stage, for your vertical, for your country, geography, for your type of the company, so that you have this large pipeline, large CRM of investors where there is a lot of them, and you can work with them while building relations and by updating them. So this is a screenshot of an Excel spreadsheet of a startup that reached out to 400 VCs, out of which they had 50 calls and they got 10 term sheets. That's an Excel spreadsheet. You can use the software, but these are the realities. One of our best startups has been fundraising. One of the best performing startups has been fundraising for 1.5 years, not 3 months, not 6 months, but 1.5 years. And this is one of the best performing companies. Not because couldn't get the yeses. They got some yeses, they got some no's, but the whole process of communicating, of going through the due diligence, of finding the right fit of the investors, it takes a lot of time. So please, one thing for you to be aware of: the best date for you to start fundraising is today, when you have still time. If you don't have time, let's go forward. Create a data room. So this is something that is, well, I don't know. I think many founders have. Some don't, but in general, don't underestimate the value of it. So the data room is a block of needed information, of the legal, of all possible information around your company, besides one pitch deck. So it could have the compiled information about the products, about the market, about the business model, the legal agreements, or legal all things. Agreements. Anything related to marketing and sales, the financial analysis, projections, blah blah blah, the execution part, the team information about the founders. So all possible related documents and information about the company, which would not fit in one pitch deck, because the pitch deck should not be long and should not cover like all possible things, right? Why this is important is because the speed is important. Knowing that the decision-making process is long, the only thing that you cannot affect and influence the other people's processes, right? You cannot affect their decision-making speed, but what you can affect is your speed, your decision-making, your preparation, pretty much. So if you're getting the request from a fund to get some extra, financial projections, you're sending them the link to the financial projections over, an hour, 30 minutes, 15 minutes, as soon as you can, which will, from your side, you will just decrease, you will have the control of the times that you are spending on that. And right now, when the seasonality is low, this is the best time for you to prepare all these documents, because it obviously takes time to prepare everything around the startup. A line on the Q&A is one of the things that I think are extremely valuable and make a huge different impression when you're on the interviews with investors. Aligning on Q&A means that it's not only the CEO who is talking with investors, but especially in the early stage. So I'm talking about pre-seed and seed. All of the founders, all the co-founders, should be in touch with investors and going on the meetings with investors. And one of the most important things or most damaging things is when it's only one person who knows the answers. And then let's say the CTO knows everything perfectly, only about the product, only about the tech, but doesn't know anything about the market the company is getting into. So while people have different skill sets and different focused areas, which is super fine, you can help each other. So create that list of questions that you've been asked by the venture capitalists already, investors, angels, it doesn't matter, and research the questions that investors are asking, startups in general, and create write down actually the answers on each question so that those answers are coming in one list in one document, and that document should be shared between co-founders, maybe even between all the employees. But the idea is that everyone are aligned, everyone are aware what kind of answers, what is the direction of your company thinking process, strategic thoughts, the vision and the mission that you're going into, so that it doesn't matter who from the founding team is answering the question. All the founders would have different angles from their own skill set and perspective, but they all have to have the same idea of the questions and actually have the quality answers. Step number 4 that you are doing in summer is aligning on motivation between the founding team. If you've done that from the very beginning of your company formation, perfect. If you haven't done that, this is one of the most important things for you to understand, is what drives each of your co-founder teams, and if you are actually moving in the same direction. Because you can be, of course, you know that there's a lot of companies that are failing because of the founders clash, and one of the super important things is to understand what drives those people from the very beginning. From to know if you're as a co-founding team are motivated by the same things, maybe not the same things, but if those different motivations are aligned under the same umbrella, under the same vision, and you will be working together kind of in the long term. The exercise is super simple. Kind of sit together as founders, and each of you write down like the mode and why you're doing what you're doing separately without sharing with each other, and then have a discussion about that, learn about your co-founders, learn what is important for them, so that especially for the CEO, what is important to understand how to build this team between the founders and with the employees as well. Why this is a part of the fundraising workshop is because when you're talking with investors, it is very visible when the founders are not aligned. It is very visible through the discussions, through the answers to the questions. It is also can be asked by investors as well, like what drives each of the founder, and then it is visible when there's like people are going or answering things that don't match. And the important thing here is, of course, I'm not saying this to match the investors' expectations, because that doesn't matter. Like whatever investors' expectations have, you're building the company for you and for your company and for the changing of the world, let's say, maybe, hopefully. So that it's extremely important for you to reach your goals as a business, to have this founders aligned from the very beginning. A note for the CEO that there are, and this is connected to the previous point, is that the CEO should take care of 3 things in the company: the financials, so that the company doesn't run out of money; people, to know what drives whom and what are the ups and downs of each person in the team; and to drive the vision, to lead the vision of the company, so that you can have this team following you, and you as maybe founders team as well. But right now, these are the kind of the CEO definitions. And why it is a part of the fundraising workshop, the same reason why the previous one is a part of the fundraising workshop, because this would define, like this, even if a CEO will do this, the exercise, or will develop in terms of the people care and of will create clear values and the culture for the company. This will by default help you with the fundraising, because the clarity of the like, what do you want and what do you want to achieve and how do you want this company to operate, and how do you see this company in the way broader way, just except for in addition to just like values, in addition to just milestones that you're achieving in the traction. So what are the things around your traction? This is, again, it helps not only with fundraising, but it helps with the company building. Last things, two last things about the back to the investors. So you created that pipeline I started from, and then through the company, through the summer, you're focusing on customers, it's mentioned, because this is the time for you to show the traction. And then the last thing that you need to do, not the last, but the regular thing that you need to do, is to actually write the updates to investors. And you will not imagine, when I started working 10 years ago in VC, I knew that there should be investor updates coming from founders. 10 years later, there's still so little updates that are coming from founders that are fundraisers, that are in process of fundraising. So the ones that want the investors to be on board. And this impacts the decision-making process dramatically. And just one simple thing, if you are putting this as a habit of creating the regular traction execution-based investor updates, and you are sending it regularly to your pipeline of 400 VCs, regularly meaning monthly, you're already in that super small percentage of startups that are doing that. You're already like 10 steps closer to your fundraising goals, because there's so little amount of companies that are doing the updates. So just implementing that simple habit will bring you closer to your goal. And the last, or like, let's say what I mentioned already, so you are focusing on the customers through this summer period, because whatever fundraising is not a goal. Fundraising is a tool to achieve your company goals and your company milestones, to scale, to get to the new markets, to get the right people. So while you're in process of this slow season with investors, you have to focus so you can spend time on preparing the documents and all the pre-work for the fundraising while you have this time. But of course, the main thing remains forever the focusing on the traction, on the work with customers, and that would be your final focus on this summer. And on this note, this is almost the last slide, and I think it is the perfect illustration of the founder's mindset. In creating your company projections, be realistic. Even if your company is growing twice month over month in the beginning, it will not be growing twice or 3 times every month or every quarter through the lifetime. Think of that journey that you're getting to becoming a 100 million euro company, and spend a little bit of time or a lot of time on proper financial let's say projections or estimations, something like that. With this, I will offer Daria to join me back. I am available through intro.co with the DLOOM code that will give you 10% of the discount if you need extra help for some advice for your startups. And then if you're a startup that is looking for an acceleration program, the best thing is just to go to the website of Startup Wise Guys and to apply there, because we have a brilliant team that will take it from there. So yeah, I will stop sharing. And
thank you so much for a very insightful overview of what is going on the market and with investors, because I think it's very important to take a step back and figure out not only that it's hard to fundraise, but also understand that investors themselves are going through a lot of challenges at the moment. It's been great for 2 years of 2021, 2022, but now it's a bit more turbulent for them as well. And understanding the counterpart is always very important. And also, thank you so much for great advice of what we can do with the next months that investors are taking off, trying to be with their families and focusing on something else. I think building the proper pipeline of relevant investors is very important. And if you are in the country that has an active ecosystem, and sometimes governments also take part in the startup life, trying to support, because for a lot of countries it's also additional revenue into their chests. That means that you can always find either a support program or some sort of resource. And just to highlight that it's actually possible, we have invited representative of e-residency. It's an Estonian organization, and Sergey, who is joining us right now, will share a little bit what is an e-residency and what they have been working on to support founders on their journey and to help them actually build a good pipeline of relevant investors. Hello, Sergey.
Right. Thank you, Daria. Yeah, I've been thinking that the topic that I'm going to cover, I'm going to basically introduce a resource that we have built in the last few months specifically for startup founders that will help them to navigate a little bit easier in the Estonian startup ecosystem. But I've been thinking that, the world has become so competitive in terms of, with all the globalization and the open EU market, it seems like every country should worry about, developing tools to attract startup founders into their jurisdictions, right? Because, we see how tech development and all the innovation drives the economy nowadays. And we in Estonia, we're a small country, obviously, we don't have any natural resources or anything like that. So basically, the only thing we have is a very successful startup ecosystem. Some of you may have heard. I obviously don't know where all of you guys are from. I assume from different countries. But, throughout the last couple decades, Estonia has become pretty successful in building successful startups. And the Estonian startup ecosystem is also considered a very successful among other countries. And so what we do at e-residency is, so first of all, e-residency, it's a sub-organization at Estonian Business and Innovation Agency. So one of the goals that we have is to help local startup ecosystem grow, to bring more clarity, to create more connections between startup founders and different support organizations, whether it's VC funds or accelerators, incubators, competitions, whatever it is. So our job is to drive this Estonian startup ecosystem to the top, And we recently realized that, we have so many cool organizations in Estonia that support startups, but it's all scattered, So like Alexa said, you should, one of the first steps that you should do is you should actually find those relevant investors, VC funds, because you can't pitch everyone, right? So what we did kind of in a way is we put together this resource for you guys where basically if you think of the Estonian startup ecosystem, it's just one page, one resource that gives you a comprehensive overview about everything that happens in the Estonian startup ecosystem, okay? So I'm going to share my screen and I'll show you this. Okay. I assume you can see it, right? So this is the webpage of the Estonian e-residency. I'll mention at the end as well what e-residency is, but for the sake of logical interpretation of things, let me just continue with this specific page here. So it's on the website. You go to resources and fund your business, and we're going to send you this link as well. But basically, we have gathered all of the organizations, whether they are private or governmental, and all of them are somehow connected with the Estonian startup ecosystem. So 65 results in total, and you can see you can filter them out. So whether you're looking for Estonian incubators, accelerators, they're all listed in here. And also what's kind of cool is that they are literally divided by, verticals. If you are a space tech, then, you might reach out to ESA Big. If you're health tech, then, reach out to health founders and so forth. They're obviously divided also by stages. Some are for early stage startups, some are from scale ups. You can see Wise Guys has quite many different programs here as well. So this is definitely a page to go to get an overview about what's happening currently. And you can also see that we also added the timeline. So basically, some of these programs are closed already. We don't take this off from here because you can see what was happening in recent time, because these programs, they update. Like this will be taken off, another one will be listed. From the same organization. So although the application time is closed, it doesn't mean that the organization doesn't exist anymore, right? So you can still monitor, you can reach out and see what you need there. Investing funding, right? So all of the Estonian VCs, basically, all of the like investors here, like the resist button as well. And if you open, it kind of gives you a little bit more information. So you can go through this on your own later on. I'm just showing you, the overall visual of it and where to find the information. There are grants and loans. So this is EAS. This is the Estonian Business and Innovation Agency. So that's from my organization. So this one here, currently open. So you can apply if this is applicable to you. This program is closed. So we're going to substitute this for something else very soon. But I guess, this is a very good resource to look through. Now, you may not be Estonian founder, startup founder. You may not be Estonian citizen, and that's fine, because what I said in the beginning, that like all different countries, they are fighting for good startups, for talent, for innovation, for professionals, and we do as well, because this has been our strategy throughout the last several years, many years. And we are always happy when foreign founders are actually finding something relevant to their needs in Estonia. Okay. And we are very welcoming those founders to Estonia. Now, what it means really is we don't expect people to actually physically relocate to Estonia. And this is what the e-residency is for. So e-residency is basically a digital ID that we give to non-residents. So what you can do is you can apply. It costs 120 euros state fee. So we send it to you to, wherever you are. You can pick it up from the Estonian embassy in your country. And by having this digital ID, the e-residency, you can actually access all of the Estonian governmental websites and all the public services. Luckily, in Estonia, they are fully digital, and everything is in two languages, English and Estonian. So you should have no issues navigating in the Estonian kind of public sector. And this is what Estonia is known for. So statistically, in Estonia, every third startup that is registered in Estonia is actually registered by a non-resident, so by an e-resident. So it's been huge. We have one of 10 unicorns in Estonia is actually founded by an e-resident. It's Glia. You can look it up if you've heard of them. So yeah, there is a lot happening in Estonia for startups. I suggest you look it through, see if you find something. Maybe it will simplify your researching. And that's it from me. I think Daria will send you this webpage later on, so on your free time you can go through this. I promised I'm not going to take more time. If you guys want to learn more about opportunities in Estonia, about e-residency, figure out whether it's good for you or not, reach out to me. I work for the government organization, so I'm not going to charge you for this consultation. That's my job, so I'm happy to talk to you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sergey, was looking at the website. Where was this list? It was in Y.
if you go resources and then
resources, yeah, lovely.
Yeah.
So I will actually add all of the resources that have been shared today into the comment section under this webinar. So you don't have to try to remember, everything will be provided to you, dear founders, whoever has joined us. And thank you so much, Sergey, for coming in and sharing this opportunity. I love when everything is organized and in one place and with all the filters. This is great. So thank you so much. And we have 4 minutes left. Let's use this resource that we have very efficiently. I think I have created a very interesting question that might be very relevant to the founders, because we know what is going on, what we have to do during summer, and we know that there are different resources. You can just Google it. You can go to your government pages, figuring out what are opportunities out there. But considering it's so hard to fundraise for investors and the times for both sides are not great, how do you figure out which investor currently has capacity to invest? You as a founder, you create your lists, it's 400, you figure out those are the ideal investors for me, but how do you actually evaluate that they have an ability to invest at this particular moment? And I will obviously direct it to Alexa.
Well, maybe Sergey also will add something extra. I think there are two there's one super simple thing and the second one that you have to know. So the simple thing is just go Google, because there's like plenty of first investors care about their visibility. Not everyone, but there's a lot of lists. So there's like resources, as that Sergey also mentioned. So there's this lists of things that are out there, ratings, reports from Crunchbase, from PitchBook, from Carta, from Westby, for instance, that is focused on more on our region as well. So there's a lot of like actual reports with active investors that made investment, and that is I think as a fresh data is quite important and very easy to find. But however, the second part of the same thing is that besides having those lists of active investors already out there just in the researches, as a founder, you have to know that investment fund, unless it's a business angels are doing their own thing, so they have their own resources and they're making the decisions according to their own timelines. But as a fund, a VC fund has typically 3 to 4 years investment period, which means that and this is typically not like listed on the website. So you have to know when this fund was launched, when they made the first investment, what is the size of the fund, how many investments per fund they want to do, and when is the investment period is ending. So let's say if the fund has been formed in 2021, most likely they've invested almost the whole fund by this moment, and then the question is, do they still have space to invest from that fund, or they are raising the next fund? And then the question is, when will they raise the next fund? So if they're able to make an investment today, tomorrow, when you need it, or this particular fund will actually take, I don't know, half a year to finish the new fund, and then they will start investing. If they're in the middle somewhere, let's say the fund was launched and formed and made the first investment last year, which means that they still have like 1.5, 2 years of an investment period. So they're somewhere in the middle, which means that they're active. And also important to understand what is the number of investments they aim to do per fund. So typically it would be, I don't know, 20-ish, 20 to 25. It is like if it is a seed fund, let's say, and then okay, so how many investments you've done already from this fund? If you've done 5, there's still plenty of place to do, and they actually have to increase their speed of investing. If they've done over the first year 15, then probably the next couple of years they will be more choosing more and spending more time on the due diligence, etc. So basically, Google the active ones, and then when talking with those active ones, check when is the fund ending for them and how many investments they've done.
Thank you so much. That was also very insightful. I don't think we have much time left, so let's bring this webinar to conclusion. Thank you so much, both of you, for joining again. If you are looking for governmental resources within Estonia, then go check out e-residency and their new webpage with every single investor that you can find in Estonia. It doesn't matter if you're an Estonian founder or not, you can obviously find something relevant for you there. And thank you, e-residency, actually, for putting it together. Very handy. And thank you so much, Alexandra, for joining us, yet again, providing insightful knowledge into the ecosystem situation, but also how to utilize summer downtime to your benefit. Yet again, go and start your fundraising processes now if you don't have nine months of runway. And if you're interested to book a session to go in depth into your fundraising strategy, or you want to have one-on-one with Alexandra, you can find her in the platform. Remind us. Intro.
Yeah. I thought you forgot your platform name, Dilum.
No. But also, Alexandra will be joining a dealer marketplace next week, so you don't have to do in-depth research. You can go to the Dilum platform if you are a registered startup there. If you're not registered startup, Dilum is actually an amazing resource for you as well, because you create a profile and we match you with all the relevant investors that might invest into you. So that means there is one less step of figuring out who you should approach, and then you can submit your applications with few clicks. And we're also growing an ecosystem around founders, and you can find a useful resource as Dilum Marketplace with all the different services that you might require during your entrepreneurial journey. And also you can subscribe to our newsletter that we're releasing each month with insightful knowledge similar to what you have heard today. And then you can also see all of the interesting opportunities that our investors on the platform have offered, and also what is happening outside of the Dilum platform. This is it for today. Thank you so much, and go fundraise. Bye.
Thank you.